Hello. Black screen is not what it's supposed to be getting. Let's hold on. Let's try this again. Maybe. There we go. Hello. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Hopefully you're doing great today. I forgot exactly where we left off and what needed to be done next time, or this time now. With our Pulumi code. So looks like what we got is we're creating our VPC, we're creating our EC2 instance. We have EC2 load balancer, security groups, the VPC type stuff. So basically we create our VPC, which really is just handing it the VPC ID, and then it sort of like figures things out. Okay, great. And then okay, so it's creating subnets, it's doing all the things. I should probably just try running it, see what happens. I also need to be in the right folder. So if you remember, the entire point of all of this is we want to set up a load balancer. We want to set up our EC2 instance. Okay, failed with an unhandled exception. Unable to compile the TypeScript. Unexpected token. In security groups, line 40. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so we just created our security group thing. We have our 3 different security groups. Let's see. Homeless, hello. What is a good agile development methodology? Extreme programming or Scrum? So they both solve different problems. And Scrum's interesting because it's been like slightly falling out of style, or at least certain parts of it has in the agile community recently. But I don't know if anything else has really like picked up the slack, or if people are just sort of like picking pieces of it and just sort of going with that. I can tell you that XP has been around for a really long time. We might even say that it is as old as, or potentially predates agile. XP is, so for those of you who don't know, XP is extreme programming is basically pairing all the time. It's like 100% pairing. You have 2 people together. Because of that, benefits you get: no code reviews. The code review happens at the time of the coding, so you're shifting left some of those things on the board. So instead of like work and then move it over to a column for like a code review, that code review happens at that time. So less rework is hopefully what you're getting out of that. Higher quality code, and also basically developers reminding themselves, hey, this is, what about a different way to do it? So basically it's a meeting and a coding session all together. Scrum is a framework where you have a lot of it's basically like an organization says, okay, we need to do agile, but we have no idea what to do, and none of us know what to do, so let's go buy a prepackaged off-the-shelf solution and just implement that. And so it's like, basically, here's the meetings you're going to have, here's what's going to have in the meetings. You're going to have to hire these people as roles. Like, for example, if you don't have a Scrum Master, like a dedicated Scrum Master, then you're not doing Scrum. You could be doing something better than Scrum, but you can't call it Scrum. because that's very strict of like, okay, you have a scrum master, you have these no, the scrum master is not a project manager. That's I think that's one of the big points about it is the scrum master is there to ensure that the scrum meetings and the process happens correctly, and that everybody sort of like knows how things are going, and like gets basically unblocks a lot of people. So a scrum master helps run the meetings. A scrum master is a coach for agile and sort of like helps everybody understand how things are working and what things are going on. Their focus is on the scrum itself and not the project, as it were. The project, so there is no project manager in Scrum. Instead, the team should be the project managers. Like all together, they make the project. They are project management, if that makes sense. Why do they stand up when they have daily meetings? So the idea of standing up is that, and this is kind of like it's sort of like a glib type of thing. It's trying to make the meeting short. So a stand-up meeting should be no more than 15 minutes for a team of like 12. It should be significantly shorter the smaller team. If you remove, so I have a team of like 3, maybe 4, depending upon the day, whether or not I have like a guest, person on the team. We can, if you remove all the fluff from our meeting, where we're just sort of like, hey, how's it going? Let's like chat about other things and be social because we're all remote. If I remove all that stuff, our stand-up is 5 minutes. Or less, like sometimes. So if you stand up and you don't sit down, you don't relax, that's the idea. You don't relax. It's just a get stuff done, plan the meeting out, plan the day out, and then go from there. A lot of people do the stand-up meeting wrong. They do it as they invite the wrong people. Do they need burn charts? I can't remember. So like, I looked at Scrum and then I never actually implemented it solidly because I never had a Scrum Master. Because that just costs too much money. I've never worked at a company big enough to like have something like that. So I like stopped like looking through everything specifically, and we relied upon retros to like improve the process and like get better and continuously like continuous improvement, which is important in any kind of agile system. So do they need burn charts? It's helpful, but this is where like Scrum gets a little bit vague, because I don't think that Scrum needs burn charts, but some companies do. It really depends upon the type of work you're doing and what the problems you're trying to solve are, and what the problems in the sort of like in and outside the development environment you have, because different problems are going to require different solutions. So maybe, I mean, the answer is maybe. I use burn up and down charts. I basically combine them together so I can see how quickly we're moving through the sprint. I do use velocity, so in my team, and that's falling out of favor because velocity, by the way, is not a Scrum thing. That is something that a lot of Scrum teams do, but is not required by Scrum or even defined by it. Dota, hello. We're talking Agile today. So let's see. Yeah, velocity is sort of fallen out of favor with a lot of companies, or at least let's say maybe I shouldn't use companies that. Velocity is falling out of favor with a lot of agile people, like the people that are actually trying to do agile for real, because velocity tends to be weaponized by management against the teams. And velocity is a metric, and velocity is a tool by and for the team. The second that a team feels that velocity is being used against them, there is zero value to velocity. To get good velocity, you got to push features. So that's I would argue that it depends upon how you define a velocity. So the way I do it at my company, and I'm super careful about velocity. If any manager outside of me, because I'm in the team, so I can talk about it with my team because I'm in it. It affects me too. But if anybody outside of that talks about velocity in any kind of I'm measuring it type of way, I immediately shut that down publicly, because I need to have my team understand that velocity is not being we don't need to we're not being judged on velocity. We're being judged on just what we're doing, what we're being asked to do, and are we delivering it? And that's all. And velocity is just a tool for us to know if that's happening in a healthy way. So I don't have one velocity. I have 3 velocities that I track. Is that right? It might only be 2. So I have just the overall number velocity. That number is the most useless number so far. It's interesting to look at, but I don't really care about it. And then I have unplanned features velocity. So unplanned in this case is bugs, things that we shipped code, and now we need to fix something in previous code which is not good. I add that, we point that work, but it affects its own velocity. So we have the overall velocity, and now I have this unplanned velocity. And so if I take the overall velocity and subtract the unplanned velocity, that gives me the adjusted velocity. So this is now a 3rd velocity. This velocity is the real actual feature adding work that we're doing. But then for all of that feature added work, we're tracking the type of work inside of that. So that way we're saying, okay, we have, Full Stack Live, hello. So we track the type of work, which is very sort of lean. When we're using the same types of work that we got from Phoenix Project. So I know you read the Phoenix Project book, so we're using that sort of thing. So I literally have tags that I put on every ticket, and we're using Jira, where we say, okay, this ticket is unplanned. This ticket is a business priority. This ticket is a customer request. This ticket is IT, which IT I've sort of named from IT to internal improvement, because it's something to make us faster, but it's not really going to directly add money to the company, but it might improve things, make us better, faster, stronger, all that fun. I know. The good thing is that nobody else in the company really cares about Jira. So I have full ability to customize Jira for my team, which I found that most of the negatives of Jira and most of the things that I complain about Jira, I've not found any other companies that do any better. So what I want to do with it is would require a custom solution, and that's just so much work that I'm okay, fine, I'll just work around Jira and get my metrics outside of Jira, because Jira does not give me the right metrics that I need for how I'm doing stuff, which is a very much more DevOps sort of style of metrics gathering. But yeah, if you have those different, I have all those different velocities that sort of combine together. And then I want to make sure that I'm working on different things. So the business added stuff, I then also tag with a priority, the actual project that we're supposed to be working on. And then when we go, I can use that velocity to get an accurate idea of, yeah, feel free to post that talk in a Discord. The green part of the red-green fractor is actually the least important part. Interesting. But I guess, yeah, I'll be interested to see that. I will probably also post, there's, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, exactly. It's just another ticketing system, and then that's really important. That's like a huge part of agile, is that the teams are in charge and in control of their own destiny. So if you come to the team with a problem and not a solution, you come to them with a problem, and then the team gets to choose how to solve that problem, then you just flipped the power dynamic around. Now you're the team is in charge of how to build it, but also means the team is in charge, like now needs to like understand what the problem really is. Why is the problem being solved? They can work with customer success or service or sales or whatever to really like grab the details of that, and then they will generally create something that's better than the original solution that somebody else may have come up with. The opposite is maybe true too, but the idea is that everybody needs to work together. So they could come back and say like, hey, we decided not to do that. We're going to do this instead. It still checks all the solution boxes that you wanted, but we own it now. And it's ours, and we're really invested in this, and we're going to build it. And it's really great. Okay, so if I do, I think it's like Nigel Thurlow. Let's see, it was Nigel Thurlow. It's in, it's a YouTube video on project estimation. Something like 95% is, here it is. So he has two things. This is one of his videos. And then the other one is this one right here. Why you should estimate all work in Scrum and Agile teams. So highly recommend both these. I will post those in the Discord later today too. Hero Dev rating with a party of 41. Welcome, 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 Hero Dev and everyone else. How's your stream today? Talking about Agile and Scrum is to follow. I am super passionate about this type of stuff. I've been so I'm a team lead. I am I'm a team lead. I am also essentially acting like consultant with the rest of the company, like internal consultant type stuff. So I'm learning all this stuff and then sharing it around. I do a lot of experimentation, and I do a lot of other fun stuff. And then sort of like just try to like constantly improve our productivity and everything else in a healthy way. It's something you're wrestling with at a new gig. They equate points to hours and your soul's dying. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it gets weaponized, and that's the key. Is like if it's getting weaponized, or yeah, I mean like if it's getting points to hours, like it's automatically weaponized. You can't stop it. It's like it's there. Something needs to change, and like that's where like for me with points, it takes just constant reminder. Oh, hey, we're not using points for time. So let's try this again, and go do it again. It took some of the other teams a lot of time to get to the point, but I feel like now we're in a good point where like all the teams are actually successfully figuring out like and doing points. I think something that helped me and like sort of like got us started on the right foot is that we are very, very bad at the initial estimate, but we're very good, like, and I'm talking about like just us as people, we're very good at comparing things. So if I were to ask you, I've got some like sticky pads here. So if I were to ask you like, okay, you know, how many like the sticky sheets are on this pad? You're not going to be able to like tell me at all. But what if I don't actually need the number? What if I just need to tell you, here is a new sticky sheet that hasn't had any use out of it. Now, tell me, what percentage do you think is available here? That's so much easier. Meta Marcus, you need to run to write automated tests, but you want to hear this wisdom. Well, that's like, that's also a great reason to run, right? To write automated tests. Right, like I'm seeing like 30, 50, 50, 25. I mean, yeah, if like it's hard to like hold up to the camera to like make it obvious, especially if the green screen is like screwing. It's blue, it's not green, but whatever, it's freaking out about it. My point is that if we have prior experience with something, it'll be a lot easier to point it, right? So the way that I start is we said, okay, here is like, we're going to start pointing tickets on complexity. So let's like, here's a backlog of things. Let's find the least complex item in it. Relative sizing, exactly. We're going to go find the least complex item in our backlog. And once we found it, I said, that is a 5. And then well, shouldn't I'm like, nope, it's a 5. Like I am putting my manager hat down. I am saying that like, this is a 5. I have declared that to be a 5. So what is this point? What is this ticket then? So given that that's a 5, then what is this? We're going to use the Fibonacci system. So we're going to use like, 3 chunks over. Is it something else? Not 5 hours, just 5 points. Like, because here's the thing. Points are meaningless. It's just, I'm assigning a number and the number doesn't have any meaning. So it's 5 points, and it's just the idea of like, how complex do we think that it is? Because remember, we don't really know and understand the work yet. If we had already done it, it's super easy. We can just look back and say, oh yeah, that was like an 8. That we can go all the fur. We were gonna like, that was an 8.7345. Like, if we've already done it, we know exactly what the problem was. What do you get out of my velocity? Okay, perfect question. Also, Vestimir, hello. You should estimate complexity, not how much time you think it'll take you to implement. Yes, exactly. There's a reason for that. And we're getting into whiteboarding time. I guess we'll go with yellow for this. So in this sort of like project management, doing stuff like figuring out things, there's a lot of there's this sort of idea of work that we understand and work that we don't, what is it called? It's the Kinefin framework. The Kinefin, is it framework? Can't remember what the second word for that is. But this is what I'm using, is that we have the idea of work that we understand. So we have complex work. And then, where is it? Is it down here or is it down here? I can't remember anymore. We have complicated work. Man, writing with a mouse sucks. Can I actually select this or not? Sort of. We have complicated work. So, let's see. And the CEO, that's the tricky part, is part of all our ceremonies. And he said that Scrum Poker sounded like a waste of time. So CEO being part of Scrum ceremonies is right then like a huge problem. Because, and this is something from like just a management point of view. If you're a manager and you have power over somebody else, like I could walk up and say, I decided that I want to fire somebody today. They're going to be fired just because I'm in a bad mood. Then if you have that power, even if you never use it, everybody else is going to be painfully aware of that because just we're humans. In a way, we're social dynamic beings. We're extremely aware of those hierarchs in there. And so if somebody has that power in our group, there's going to be some deference to them. And if they just say or act in any kind of way that shows preference to something, that's going to affect how everybody else works. So it's something sort of like to consider. So I don't use a poker, like a Scrum Poker with that when we're choosing our points. We just have a discussion. I don't really feel like we don't really need to like all like say okay and then reveal at the same time. We're just like, okay, let's choose it, but let's also like discuss why. We also if we're having too much trouble, that might be because we don't understand it enough, and we might be in the next one, which is chaos. I should probably remove these lines because let's just do this. We have chaos, we have complex, and we have complicated. There we go. This might be a little bit better. And this is all in the Kinefin framework. Is that how to spell it? It's been a long time since I've looked up how to spell Kinefin. Scrum Poker, you found, you guessed 5 every time because you didn't have to speak to why you pointed something a particular way. That would work on my team. It would, because they were like, oh, well, why did you choose that when somebody else chose like a 34? But we do things slightly different than most companies. So I generally people, yeah, it's a thing. In your team, whoever made the highest and lowest estimation had to explain why. It sort of depends, right? Like I have a small enough team that we can have those conversations really easily. I feel that Scrum Poker is maybe like covering up or it's like trying to solve a problem that could have like even a better solution, which is the problem being that people are like just not knowing what to do, so they're just choosing some number arbitrarily. So it's okay, let's just make it so everybody has to choose blindly. And then you get like the next thing, which is like, I'll just choose a 5 because somebody else is going to choose a 3 usually. And then everybody's playing the wrong game. Like everybody's now playing a what is that game? The game theory game? The one where you're in jail. And it's you're guessing what somebody else is going to do, and like if you do it the right way, then you're like, I win. You turn into that, and like that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be figuring out what the complexity is or at least giving a guess of what it is and going from there. It's a step in the right direction, but I wouldn't stop there. I would continue to move in there, like move towards a place where you don't need it anymore because you could have the discussions on it. So I think a lot of people plan and discuss software as if it's in a complex space as opposed to complicated space. So complex space, the way that this is defined is this can be hard, but it is something where all or most variables are understood and can be planned for. So that's in complex space. So what do I mean by that? I think the Nigel Thurlow in the Flow System book, which is probably the best book for this, said that complex work is like think of repairing or building a jet. Not a new jet. This is just an existing jet. Like you want to build the same jet and you want to build it again, or you want to repair it. Everything is known. Like you know exactly what tools you need. You know what people you need with the right skill sets. It's not easy. It's very difficult work, but it is very well known work. And because it's known work, you can say with some level of reliability, this is going to take X amount of time to do because it's in complex space. You're not sure yet what to think about people who estimate like this task is 5 story points, but testing's hard. Let it be because of some legacy components or system complexity or as whole. So I give it 8 to 13 story points. Not sure if it's explicitly stated whether you should or shouldn't be take writing tests into considerations or not, but it seems like the pure nature of testing seems to increase amount of story points for some people. I agree with Meta Marcus. It depends on if it's part of your definition of done. It needs to be like you need to have a strong definition of done to do story point type things. And for me, it's like, yes, we're going to do testing. Or we're going to specifically say, hey, this ticket doesn't need to be tested because we have test coverage in some other way. And it's just like this, a little change here. Like we're changing the color of something or whatever. Test all possible combinations. So what I notice is, and I've done this before in a couple times. It's sometimes we're down in chaos state a little bit, where we're like, oh my, there's so many things that we could do. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what we're supposed to be doing for this ticket. So I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's refine this ticket a little bit. Let's come up with our test cases now. Let's spend 10 minutes and write out the test cases that are really going to be important for us. Once we write those out, then we're like, okay, now can we point this? Now can we understand what this is going to be? So it's sometimes it takes a little bit of time for us to we need to understand this ticket better. And so we do that. We do that in we have a meeting which we call refinement for that. Yeah, I do that too with my team. Although I'm the manager, so it helps. When they're like, okay, we're doing test coverage, and they're like, well, won't that take longer? It's like, I'm the manager. We're doing test coverage. I'm the one who gets in trouble if it takes us too long, but also I'm the one who gets in trouble if it fails and a bunch of people can't actually use the product. So, kind of important. So complicated state this is where we are in most of the time. Yeah, this is going to be a lot like we don't know a lot. We are making, like, we are learning while building, and won't really know until we're done. That's going to be in our complicated state. And this is where we actually live in software development almost all the time, is just here in complicated. This is why we can't say like, hey, it's going to take us 3 hours to do, because there's too many unknowns. There's too much stuff going on. Too many things. Like, we're doing brand new things that have never been done before. If we're constantly doing like tickets that we have done before in the past, we should figure out a way to automate that so we don't have to do that anymore. And it should be something new. We should always be like essentially making prototypes. Except the next prototype is better than the previous one. That's the idea. Stories are poorly written. You have to ask a lot of questions. Yeah. A large part of the work is building the right thing. Exactly. The problem is when you're in complicated state, you don't know what the right thing is. Expecting well-explained stories, especially initially, is a misnomer. So it's interesting because I think we can still have good stories, but it might be that we have to break them down more, or we have to discover and understand when we're in chaos state. And chaos is going to be more of, okay, we don't even know enough to say that we're in complicated state. We're in like, there's so many unknowns that we just have no clue whatsoever. And so then like the only thing that's important is just experiment and learn and figure out something, some rock that you could then hold on and then like build from there. Question, is it fine for you to estimate lower a task as for everyone else's 5 SP, but John can handle that in a 2 to 3 SP, so let's just assign him immediately to make it faster. Let's see, there's more to that, but that one already I want to answer there. I'm aware that silos of knowledge being created and there's less knowledge sharing apart from code review, but I wonder if it's fine by the book to estimate and assign people at the same time. I don't like to estimate and assign people. In fact, I don't like to assign people at all. I like the estimations to be done separately because there's we don't know what's going to happen in the next X days before that ticket gets worked on. So I wouldn't I wouldn't put any like how we're gonna do stuff. Meta Marcus, the only time that I would allow a story to have a implementation description inside of it is if the team who's working on it wrote the implementation description. That would be the only time, is when the team says like, how are we going to fix this? We need to understand this more. Let's figure that out, and then we're going to write that into the ticket. That's the only time. It has to be the team that's going to work on it. But if we go back to, hey, this ticket is like 2 to 3 versus like 5 to 7, depending upon who's working on it, that is an indication that we're not story pointing on complexity, but we're story pointing on time. And so that sort of lets us know, okay, we need to step back and really think about like, are we really story pointing on complexity? Let's go look at some other story points that has complexity and compare this to that. And yes, a senior developer can generally do more story points at a time, but I would argue that a senior developer's job is not to just get as much work done as possible and carry the team. The senior developer's job is to make sure that everyone else levels up, so we have so overall we go faster. Yeah, that's the other thing is like there's very few, like Scrum has official rules, Agile does not. Agile, okay, there's only one real solid rule in Agile, which is you should definitely be doing retros. That's it. Retros and constant improvement, and don't be afraid to like change things around. Okay. There's some other stuff that I missed. It's efficient to give tickets to people who are good at that kind of work. It is, but there's a problem in sort of like in flow systems that way, which is you're creating silos. So we've and you kind of actually mentioned that, which is the problem of silos and like where that comes in is what it can do to your flow. You have retros in between 2 to 4 hours. In your current one, you have 30 minutes, and there's literally little to no time to discuss anything. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Scrum predates Agile. Oh, really? I for some reason I thought Scrum came shortly after Agile, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like Agile, Scrum, they sort of like, I don't know about Scrum, but like Agile definitely has a roots in Lean, and Lean was invented by Toyota in 70s, 80s. That was a long time ago. That basically it's all like Deming stuff and total quality management. XP started Agile, then ran away when people changed it. I would, yeah, that sounds accurate. I do retros daily with my team. We run something called a stand down, which is a short 15-minute at the end of the day. It's usually less than that, where we just sort of like, hey, how was your day? What was something that really awesome that happened today? And what's something we can do better tomorrow? And that's it. So we're just constantly getting into the habit of, if there's any pain points today, let's surface them. And so that way we can like understand them happening. Now, the reason why I started doing that was because I didn't start at this company. I started at a previous company and I really liked it. So I brought it here, and it took a while to convince people like, hey, let's do it. It's, the idea is that if we're doing one meeting every week or every 2 weeks, generally the things and the pain points that happen at the end of the week are the only ones that we remember, and the pain points at the beginning we sort of forget. So doing like, hey, at the end of the day, I have this pain point, I just want to let us know really quickly. It's like a 5-minute meeting. We're not going to try, or 5 to 10-minute meeting. We're not going to try to solve it now. We just want to bring it up and make everybody aware that this exists. That way I can see like, oh, this has been like 4 days in a row that we've complained about this. I should use my management hat to do something about this. And then my bigger retro meeting is more culture, like big things. And that's like, let's, I've noticed that, we're not doing this type of thing. Let's all talk about like how to be like better as a team, like work together, that type of thing. Yeah, it's super interesting, but I like it. It also, the other reason I do stand downs is in the era of work remotely. Stand downs are great for giving permission to stop working. It's basically at the end of the work time, okay, we're having our stand down. That is a clear denotion, stop working. I know you literally now just like turn around and go do something else in the same space that you're at, but it's now like an actual ceremony where it's, okay, time to shut that off, the work part of your brain, and go be a person, go be yourself. And so that helps. You retro and what happened 2 hours? That's the best case. Toyota does something. They have an and-on cord system, which is the best possible situation. That's probably like the best that I've ever heard it be done. Which is, so imagine this. And I'll get to the overwork thing. I think that's gonna. I have a lot of thought about that. Toyota invented this thing called the and-on cord, which is every person on their plant can pull the and-on cord, which is a literal cord that stops the production line. So imagine they have cars flowing down the assembly line. They pull the and-on cord because they notice that a door, like a car, a door doesn't fit correctly. So they pull it, they stop the production line, they swarm. So everyone comes in and looks at it and they try to figure out what is wrong? Why is it wrong? How do we fix it? How do we prevent this from happening again? It's a learning opportunity. Implement the fix. Okay, back on and continue on. And doing that feels slower, but in the long run is faster because generally speaking, the cars that are coming off at the end are at the highest quality and they don't need to be fixed or repaired or like tuned up any further. They're just at the highest quality and they're ready to go. And it's faster for that. I like to do the same thing in my company, which we're not quite there yet, but if you're doing like a retro 2 hours after a problem, that's kind of like an and-on cord where you're saying, ooh, there's a problem. We need to talk about this right now. Everybody, let's jump on it. That's great. Okay, so I missed a bunch. I need to scroll back. What does Scrum say about overwork? Scrum doesn't say anything about overwork. Scrum is all about just like, here are these ceremonies, and if you do these, you will be making the right thing. And you'll be making it, let's see, what is it? No, you'll be making it right. You'll be making it right. It does not say that you're going to be faster. Scrum just says you're going to make it at the highest possible quality for your in the smallest possible chunks. So what that means is that, let's say you have a customer and they want something, and you're like, let's say with like 4 sprints. So at the end of the first sprint, you show the customer, this is part of Scrum, you show the customer, this is what we build. Do you still like this? And the customer says, yes. Now the customer in this case might be a product owner, but you still show it to them. And they say, yes, this is excellent. This is exactly what we want. Then you do one more sprint. You show it to them and they're like, ooh, now that I see this, I see where it's going and I don't like it anymore. Can we make this tweak? Finding out at that point in time, then the entire point about Scrum and Agile is you just change direction and then you just go from there. And the amount of work that you have to undo is at most 1 sprint worth, at most, and usually a lot less than that. And so Scrum, like, there still might be a huge amount of overwork, but that's like, Scrum doesn't like talk about that at all, really. Personally, I think that overwork is super, super bad. The reason for that is, and I'm not looking at chat right now, so I can pretend that nobody's talking about anything at all, and just waiting for me so I can then talk about my overwork spiel. So let's say we have this beautiful chart here, and let's say you can do this number of tickets in a day. Okay, great. So you work on these tickets and then you start overworking. Well, when you're tired, then we tend to add bugs in. And we're at our strongest usually in the morning when we're, just woke up and, we start work, let's say in the morning, and we're good and strong. So we work on new stuff. And then overwork happens, and so we build this type of things. But the problem is that overwork means that we added in some bugs. Microsoft did a study, and I really wish that I kept this white paper link because I love the paper, and I don't remember, I can't find it anymore. So I don't know if they deleted it or if I was just absolutely insane, but I really love this study, which was for every hour of overwork, their engineers were adding, it was something insane, like 4 hours of bugs. So imagine that you're just working 45 hours a week. That's 20 hours of bugs that you just added into the project. So what happens? We just added these bugs in. These bugs absolutely must be fixed. So the next day, you come in and you now have to fix the bugs. This is not value-added work. This is just spending time fixing this. And then you work on the previous stuff. And you reach the end of the day and you're like, oh no, look, I got this much less work done. Well, I guess I need to overwork again to add more things, which then adds even more bugs. You can see where this is going, right? You get into this cycle where eventually, over time, our orange, new, actual, value-added work disappears. And all we're doing is just adding and fixing bugs. And that just becomes a cycle. That's the life that we live in. And we keep on thinking that we're adding new work, but all we're doing is just bug fixing and bug adding. And it's terrible. And then burnout happens, and then we all quit or rebuild the project from scratch. And that's it. So overwork, I think, is the worst way to get stuff done if you want to get stuff done quickly. Our retros are observations, usually positive observations. Positive could be good, but having a critical eye and sort of seeing where could things be better, even if they're good right now, where could they be even better is a question that I like to ask when I'm not getting any sort of critical feedback. Overwork would be one of the kinds of wastes. Is that lean? It's not necessarily that. It's more of an observation that overwork tends to generate waste, as opposed to it is waste. There's no way you're going to agree with overwork is bad. Overwork definitions are different. Yes. I meant literally overworking longer hours. That's what I mean. Meta Marcus, thank you so much for hanging out. I guess I'll see you in future streams. Have a great fun time with your automated test too. Overwork from lean manufacturing has a separate definition. Yes, that's true. Overwork in that case might be generating too much inventory and creating too much that you don't need or don't want. The bugs is negative work. Yeah. Going faster by writing really broken code is a bad plan. And yet so many people seem to just go straight to that and that's their go-to is hey, let's, because I remember who was it? It was, a lot of people complain to me. It's oh man, I'm working with this person. They're a rock star. And it's okay, what do you mean by rock star? Because I what do you mean? And they're oh, they worked on, they get these features done so quickly. And then you go and you talk to one of their coworkers who it doesn't get any recognition whatsoever. And they're oh yeah, they don't really do anything. You ask them what they're doing. They're oh yeah, I'm fixing that person's bugs. They had shitty code. Didn't work. So I had to fix it all. And that's what I do every sprint is they make something, they get all the credit, they get promoted. I fix it. And I actually make it work. That is the worst possible situation that you can find yourself in, because you're going to lose the one person who's actually trying to do good, who's actually writing good code and making the product sellable. There's no trade-off between quality and speed. Yes, exactly. So the flow system, which is like something that Nigel Thurlow is working on, which is really hard to read. Like it's a dry book. But it's so good. Like it has so much good information and data on it. The entire point of the flow system is saying, okay, we want to recognize that there's two different types of flows. And the flow that we are most familiar with is individual flow. That's where you get into something, like you start coding, you're playing a game, you forget the passage of time, you're just in the flow, and then you're moving forward and you're doing great work. That's awesome. Flow is great. I love flow. And then there's team flow. Or let's see, it's either team flow or it might be organization flow or product flow. Basically, it's an alternate flow, which is we have teams that are made up of individuals we're all working on hopefully the same thing, the same general idea of thing, like, one or, same goals and same priorities. And we're trying to move in this direction, right? The problem is that if we're all working in individual flows, are the teams really moving in the same direction too? Maybe. They might be. Hopefully they are. But what if people were moving like this? Because their flows take them into like sort of different directions. This is less efficient. And so there's this idea, and the goal really, like the book, The Goal, which is a great book on lean manufacturing, and there's a lot of lessons to be taken in here. The goal states that if you attempt to make any one thing more efficient, like let's say we're going to go down and we're going to hyper focus on this person. We're going to make them the most efficient at their job so that they can do way more work. But what if that makes them more efficient in this direction? Over here, if we're just looking at this in a super zoomed in way, and you can't see the arrow, this looks great. On paper, this is super great. Is it being in flow or in the zone? It's you actually hear people use those two terms interchangeably, but flow is the more like is the actual like scientific state of like we're moving forward. You're in this particular mindset, and you're able to like work on that stuff. In the zone, I think is a more fluid term that generally means the same thing. But so I like to use the word flow because it's more specific. But if you zoom out, we now see that they have flowed in the wrong direction. And so you have made them really fast. And so this idea in the goal that's really like written out clearly, which is if you fix a bottleneck, or if you fix a problem, you make something more efficient before a bottleneck, you make the problem worse. If you fix a something and you make it more efficient after a bottleneck, you just don't do anything at all. You fix something that has no need to be fixed. So in this idea of like team flow and company flow, we need to really focus. Hey King, we need to really focus on having everything flow together. And so as a manager, what that looks like is purposely causing my team to drop out of flow every once in a while in order to readjust and say, ooh, we're going in the wrong direction. Let's redress and go back that way. and stop going this way. And that it sucks. Like, it would actually be better if I can just say, hey team, disappear for 2 weeks and come back, and you've done because we flowed in the right direction. But the chance of that happening is so low that I need like a purposeful break to say, okay, are we still going in the right direction? It's sort of like being in a submarine without sonar. We're going to go under, we're going to go off in a direction, and we're going to come back up and see where we are, course adjust, go back under again, and go again. Am I good with Vim? I used to be decent with Vim. I haven't used it in a while. It's been something that I've been thinking about doing because I see, one of my mentors like used Vim so much. I loved it. I loved what he was doing with it. And so then I wanted to get back into the scene and try it out, but I just haven't had time to really set it up and customize it to what I really want to do with it. So one of these days I'll take some time and we'll like set up Vim for like Rust programming and everything else, and we'll maybe switch over to that. So the answer is not really great yet. Probably NeoVim. I've heard really good things about it. But this is what I mean by like flow in this case. This is team flow, where you purposefully drop individuals out of flow to get going here. You gotta go. If you stay on Twitch, you'll get no work done and be pissed tomorrow. I totally understand that. Thank you, Dota. I totally understand that. That happens to me too. Like, I can't actually watch Twitch while I work because I just get invested. And so like I start paying attention to that. So I just turn on music, and if I have Twitch on, I have to mute it and like put it behind me so I can't see it. Which is why I don't really like get to watch very many other people do their streams, which is unfortunate. So anyways, this was been a nice like hour-long retreat from this, but hopefully it's helpful for all of you who are doing this. I have a lot of opinions on like how to do team building and how to do productivity, and it's really fascinating the sort of like the research that has been going on in this, and like how much companies don't do what really works out and like moves us towards that. Cheat, what's that? Is that like a cheat sheet for Vim? For everything. Oh, that's cool. I'll take a look at that later. What we were gonna work on today, which we've kind of mostly run, I don't have that much time anymore. Let's see. So I did this. I fixed. Okay, we've changed one character in the entire code base today's stream. We've changed one character. I removed a comma that was causing a compilation problem. So this is gonna be replacing a security group. Changing all of those things. I don't think that's too big of a deal. Creating a normal usage security group, placing that. Okay. Also, apparently I'm now deleting the load balancer and not. Okay, so I need to. So if I'm deleting EC2, I need to make sure we're. No, so don't do that. I need to create the EC2. So I have this EC2 await init this, which should create that. So here's my instance. Instance is create instance. Builds EC2, do these type of things. So if you're saying delete, then that means you're not it doesn't know to recreate it. Well, that's a thing. Let's see. So I await this too. I have this init function that we're exporting that here's my init. I'm exporting async. So I await calling and I return a new. Oh, I return a new. And then I need to return a load. Okay. I want to return that and then dot load. So like we do both together. I think that's what I need to do. So if you haven't seen this, Pulumi is a infrastructure as code system. I like it. We're creating this with TypeScript. I do a lot of Rust on this channel, but I haven't been doing it necessarily here. Okay, this is just going to update the security group IDs on the EC2 instance now. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we get our output again of what the AMI is going to be. That's fine. This is the Amazon Linux AMI too. Okay, load balancer. I don't actually want to delete the load balancer. So we have you come in here. Am I actually doing anything with you? No, I am not. So I want to now create the load balancer for Brooks builds, which, yeah, let's create it down here. I export you. Why can't you find it? Okay, so we pass in the security groups and a VPC. So I'm actually passing this in here. So let's actually grab the security groups out. So we'll have just one for all of them. And then we'll pass in an instance of that here. And then also the same thing here. So our security groups, and then you also want the VPC. So it's this, that one, and that will give me, that will set up a load balancer for us. So Plumi up again. So Plumi's cool. It can control AWS, a lot of different clouds too, all the major ones, a bunch of minor ones that I hadn't heard of before too. Okay, update the load balancer with different security groups. Here we go with that. Brooks builds EC2. Okay, let's do that. And I guess we're removing the usage security group and we're creating a normal usage security group. So I just changed the name on that, but the way that Plumi works is that the name of it is how it recognizes if it exists. So this will delete it and recreate it. So let's go ahead and run you. I don't have anything running on these, so I don't really care that much. Our Hello World application is running in a CloudFront, and it's just a Hello World, so we don't really need to like worry about that yet. The architecture that we're going for is actually have it in here, right here. So the idea is that we're going to have a single EC2 instance. We're going to throw in a bunch of Docker containers on it. So we're just going to run a bunch of separate things on, in this VPS. The first one we're working on is sec for a logging solution. And then we'll have a load balancer that then points like every piece of information going to sec will just auto route to that. So the idea is that I'm going to have a single load balancer for different applications, which is cheaper than having one load balancer per different one. This is not scalable, so this is a non-scalable solution here, but it's not really that big of a deal yet. If we start getting lots of traffic and we get scalability issues, we get crashing or something else in the case of too much traffic, then I would hopefully be able to log out, understand which of these things I need to then pull out, extract out, and then push into its own service. In that case, we might use ECS. We might create just a second EC2 instance and like store multiple of them there. We'll have to figure it out by that time. Hopefully, if I start getting enough traffic that I need to scale, I'm also making money from it. So that way it would cover the cost of the scaling. Because this is like the entire point of something like this, is that I'm making no money from it. So I want to keep it as cheap as possible. So I'm doing high quality, cheap, no scaling. I think Kubernetes would be much easier to Oh, that's funny. So to be fair, I've never set up Kubernetes, but it's so hilarious, the memes around Kubernetes and like what that really means for developers. I love I love one statement that I heard from somebody who works with Kubernetes all the time. Their meme was Kubernetes is the solution you pull out when you want to make something really simple difficult, but you want to make something impossible difficult but possible. So Kubernetes, absolutely. Like it could always be used and useful, but it would be overkill for what I need to do. Now, that being said, I've never used Kubernetes, so like it's quite possible that I'm just following the memes and everybody else and just assuming that it's like just over the top and overly complex and will make things too hard for it. But using Pulumi, we have created an availability zone. I had to create another availability zone for the load balancer for reasons. We have EC2 instance set up, and I have a user data script in here that basically just installs and sets up Docker and has it run. I have it currently using this first run admin password hash, which then as soon as it like sets up, I needed to go in and like change the password right now. We're doing is pretty close to Kubernetes. Really? Well, that's the managed. You're talking about EKS. It's like that's the managed Elastic Kubernetes service or server service, I think, is what it is. And the problem with that is that it's really complex for the scaling side. That's the thing. It gets worse for like the scaling side, and if I do that, it'll become more expensive for me. So I'm trying to keep it down the cost down. So that means a single EC2 instance sitting here for me. And then we'll just throw these on here. I only need one of them per. So like this is going to be my Rust backend code, which we're going to use Axum for that. Then I'm going to have Hasura pointing to a Docker. Hasura in Docker, Postgres in Docker. I'm going to store the data for that just in a file in Docker. Remember, trying to be cheap here. So we're going to keep this EC2 instance up for a long time. I'll probably prepay it so that way it will be as cheap for me as possible. Only if I need space will I probably get an Elastic. Is it EFS or EBS? There's two of them, and I can't remember which one I would want. But I would take like a file system, and like add it onto it. That would be like, think of like a thumb drive or an external disk drive to like plug in. That's what I would get there, and I could then put the database in that, so that migration will happen later. Sec is the first thing we're doing, which is logging. So the idea is that we'll have my front end, which is all my front end stuff is out here, outside of everything. And it will reach in and just send log messages. So that's all we're doing right now. And doing this in Pulumi will mean that I can refactor that and like sort of like change it all over to be easier later. So I will add in all of these other things as I need them. So I don't need a database yet, therefore we're not creating one yet. Logging I need from the beginning. Okay, so back to you. It does take a while for it to run, so I'm probably gonna run out of time before it actually finishes. But it's actually really cool. I can go and then see in my dashboard and see all the changes that I made. Doing these things in Pulumi is also helpful because I found, so like I was using things like SAM and some of the other tools to like auto create infrastructure for me in AWS. I didn't really understand what was happening. It was just creating a ton of things and services. Using Pulumi is familiar because it's code, but it's also forcing me to really understand what's happening and how everything works together, which is really important for me. To then later on when I move to the managed services, that I actually understand and know which managed service to go for, why I'm going for it, and how that's working behind the scenes. So, but I think, let's see, I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. I am not seeing anybody that I'm following right now, so I think we're gonna skip a raid today. I have to get up and go off and do my daily work thing because I don't do this full time. I do these streams for an hour or so before work. And then, so I'll be back tomorrow morning for 7 a.m. Mountain Time until around 8:15 or so a.m. So hour and 15 minutes or so. We're going to continue working on this. We need to get sec deployed, and then we can go back to our u.rs and Rust front end and continue working on that and getting that sort of like set up for us. So that's the main project. All of this is in sort of support of that. And then if you want to more guaranteed Rust, that's going to be on Sunday, where, that's going to be a break day. We are playing Screeps Arena, but in Rust. So building little bots to fight for us. So far, our bots have really sucked. I can successfully beat an opponent that does absolutely nothing, and then it loses everybody else. So we need a little bit of work on that. That's going to be a longer stream. Same time start, around sometime between 7 and 8 and until around noon. So with that, thank you everybody for hanging out with me. Thank you for the chats and letting me rant and rave about productivity and teams and all that stuff. It's one of my passions. So I hope that you all have a great rest of your Thursdays, and I will see you all next time. Bye.